Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Degenerate NFL Podcast. Casey's joining me once again. We're going at it, just the two of us in this case, once again. It was fun on the AFC West show. And now he gets to talk about my favorite team in my division that my favorite team resides in. Can you tell who it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
hope so.
and by my I live near the Bengals. I would say that the Bengals are my AFC team because the
Well, I'm
Niners
sorry
are
to
my
hear
one true
that.
love. Yeah.
No,
Like I do pray on their downfall, but like I am happy for my friends when they win.
right. Fair enough. No, yeah, we will be talking about the AFC North this time. We are finishing somehow before the season starts our previews of all the divisions in the NFL, finishing with, of course, the AFC North. NFC North show was fun yesterday for sure. We got to talk about some really good teams there, and there is maybe good teams or might just be one. It's hard to say. We'll talk about it in this division. But the AFC North is always interesting, and I think it's going to be just as funny as it always is. Because if
Yeah.
there's one thing this division is, it's always funny. Something's always going on that is
Yeah.
insane. Either the Browns are doing some weird stuff, the Bengals are just an anomaly. Who knows what the Steelers do every year? It always meets the same end, but it's always different every time that they do
Yeah.
it. We'll talk about
It's
that.
like the Ravens just sit on a pedestal and just watch the three redheaded stepchildren fight over getting into that wild card spot.
Yeah, and the worst part is like they always lose a weird game to
Yeah.
at least the Bengals and Steelers every year, at least once.
Yeah.
And like, how do you guys keep doing that? But we'll talk
Lamar
about
will
it.
have like 200 rush yards and 400 passing yards the week before, and then like have a combined 100 yards the next
Yeah, he
week.
just like I don't know what it is, but something happens to him, and especially against the Steelers. But we'll talk about that a little bit. But no, we will be talking about the Browns here first because they, of course, pretty infamously had a rough year last year, to say the least. That's putting it nicely. For the most part, not a lot of changes in the coaching staff. The main one is Ken Dorsey no longer calling plays here. Stefanski will be returning to play calling duties mercifully for this team and bring in Tommy Rees, who I believe was a former quarterback for Notre Dame and was on maybe their staff. I have to double check his situation, but he is now the offense coordinator here, but really more so as far as I can tell in name only and title only. Will probably help out a lot on the staff, of course, but Stefanski returns to being the play caller, and I do think that's the right move for this coaching staff.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at our coaching changes. I was really nothing.
Yeah, it's mostly just swapping out Dorsey.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of a run in Buffalo, just hasn't really worked out since then for him.
And
So
Stefanski taking over playing or call playing so he can fight for his job one more year.
for real, yeah, honestly, that's probably a big part. But also, he's just better at it.
Yeah, he
frankly.
is. I'm not saying he's not. I just
But that is what it's about.
Yeah,
a little bit. So there's that for sure. But let's get into the offensive moves this team made. Several interesting ones to say the least.
Yeah.
We'll focus on some ones that I think will mean the most here for them. They do swap out a bunch of backup quarterbacks, and when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. They lose Dorian Thompson-Robinson in a trade. To get Kenny Pickett, who's no longer on this team anyway, so they technically lose both of them. Although, if you really consider Kenny Pickett a loss, I don't know what to tell you.
I was about to say, I think DTR was the better option.
I mean, the problem with DTR is that he is more talented, but has shown negative potential in the NFL. So it's
he
like,
has, but it's like, are you going to get a crazy game from him over Kenny Pickett? Like,
maybe. Speaking of crazy games, occasionally, Jameis Winston also no longer in this quarterback room after mercifully taking over for he who shall not be named to help this team a little bit. Bailey Zappi is, I think, on this team's practice squad now, so maybe he isn't considered a loss. He also played a little bit last year. Nick Chubb with the Texans now, that one hurts, I'm sure, but he was not the same player last year. We'll see if he can get it back with the Texans a little bit here. Just a bunch of running backs, Deontay Foreman, John Kelly, Nyheim Hines, like just a bunch of turnover at the offensive skill positions. Extends into the receiver room. Elijah Moore never really worked out there. He's no longer there. He's with the Bills. A bunch of tight ends, bunch of backup offensive linemen. Dredger Wills is basically taking a year off football to get healthy.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a lot of stuff going on here. So pretty much every notable backup interior offensive lineman that suited up a little bit last year is out of here. So they've reworked that entire group. And we'll talk about that. Offensively, in terms of additions and retentions, they did bring back Jerome Ford, who might be this team's starting running back to start the year because of someone we'll talk about. And that's really about it. They do bring back Jack Conklin, technically too, on a rework deal. We'll see what he looks like. And then additions, Joe Flacco, a quarterback for the free agency, who's going to be the starter to start this season, which, DeAndre Carter, Deontay Johnson, no longer here, by the way, Deontay. His career has really fallen off. Tevin Jenkins is on this team, Cornelius Lucas, Jackson Barton, just to name a couple of guys they brought in over the offseason. And in the draft, this is where they did make some other additions here, some notable ones to say the least. We'll start with Quinshon Judkins, who is notable for not only his run with Ohio State to the national championship, but for some not so good reasons. Some legal stuff. We'll leave it at that. Has yet to sign his rookie contract. I don't know if he's going to before the season. I really don't know what the deal with him is. So he kind of is a nothing factor for me for the time being, but was their second-round pick or one of their second-round picks. Maybe the most fun pick they made, Harold Fannin Jr., tight end out of Bowling Green. About as productive as you'll ever see a tight end be at any level of football. We just don't really know for sure if it'll continue in the NFL. But he certainly has the profile statistically to work out. So I'm curious to see how they use him. Dylan Gabriel, the first quarterback that they drafted out of Oregon, somebody who I thought was worth a late round flyer, so not quite a steal in the third round, in my opinion. You also bring in Dylan Sampson, luckily, so you do have a rookie running back who's certainly on the team. I don't know how much work he'll get, but he is on the team. And finally, the one everyone wants to talk about, Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado in the 5th round. And I want to point out that there is a short on this channel talking about whether Sanders was going to fall out of the 1st round, and I was saying that it seemed like it's very possible. Boy, was I right, and not in the way I thought. I thought he would still be a 2nd-round pick. Being a 5th-round pick for a multitude of reasons is very interesting. I do think it's a combination of the perceived lack of ceiling with him as a passer and also just who he is as a person, unfortunately. And it's kind of played out that way. He has really not earned anything beyond the 3rd-string job with this team. He did make the team, of course. There's been a lot of talk about a lot of things that I think is nonsense in terms of whether Stefanski supposedly tried to make him fail, this whole 9 yards. I don't believe any of that. I think Shedeur just needs some time still to figure things out in the NFL. And I expect that there's a good chance we will see him at some point this year. So if we do, we'll see what that looks like. But that's what they did on offense in the offseason. And Casey, I'm curious how you feel about, do we think – this is the question I ask. Do we think any of the moves they made offensively this offseason is going to matter much within the next year or so?
No. And with Judkins, I would say you have to play this season like he's not coming. And I don't even know if they're even able – are they even able to – is it up to the team to sign him after –
I mean, he's been practicing, I think, and he's a part of the organization, but he just hasn't actually signed his deal for probably a multitude of reasons. I expect he's going to play at some point for this team. I just don't know when and if at this point, frankly. So that's definitely a big wild card here.
Yeah, I mean, their QB room is – I mean, they have some guys – they do have some guys there that – I mean, we don't know how they're going to turn out yet, obviously, because they haven't took a snap in the regular season.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel could turn out to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Will that happen? More than likely not.
No.
You just never know. But, nothing jumps off the page of additions that I'm like, oh, the Browns could possibly put something together here. I think losing Nick Chubb, I know he didn't have the year that we know he can have last year, but I think him going to the Texans, he's going to have a bounce back year. I mean, look what happened to Mixon.
True.
Went down there, maybe that's just what Nick Chubb needed. So I don't know. Nothing is exciting about the Browns right now, especially.
And I think offensively, they clearly, with the trade down to get who we're going to talk about in a little bit, and Mason Graham in the 1st round.
Yeah.
They're loading up for next year. They're hoping that there's a quarterback in that class that is worth taking high, and they want to make sure that they have every resource possible to do so. So if you're a Shedeur Sanders fan, I will say the odds of him doing enough between right now and the time that they'll be drafting somebody next year, assuming they try to, his odds of making them change that plan are very low, simply
Yeah.
because of the draft capital invested into how much he's actually going to see the field this year. I will say it's probably for the best if he doesn't end up being the quarterback for this team, because if you want him to succeed, it probably will have to be elsewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe he ends up being a trade chip if he shows enough in the games he does play. If he does, maybe he ends up getting a better shot to win a job that way or whatever. But I think for now, the offense is really just trying to get back to a level of stability where Stefanski's calling the plays, they're doing the things they want to do, and then they can determine who on this roster is actually worth keeping around for when they're hopefully better, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be about.
Yeah.
And defensively, real quick, Casey, and before we get into the moves, I know you had something to say. I think that this is much more about on defense trying to find the future of this team, because the present is still pretty talented, but there's some guys they brought in that they're hoping will be the future of this team.
Yeah, sorry, and that's what I was just going to get into is the defense. I am excited to see what this defense is going to look like. Mason Graham, I thought that was a great pickup for them. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. I know that his last year at Michigan wasn't putting up the numbers everyone was expecting, but he was still taking on the blocks, taking up the majority of everything, creating chaos. So I think that translates well into the NFL. So defense, I think, always a strong suit for the Browns, and I think that they need to hold on to that. And a little bit about the offensive line. I know we moved on from offense. That is another staple with the Browns, and that's also looking shaky. So.
Yeah, it's not ideal right now, I would say, at the very least. But hey, I think ultimately, this offense again is just trying to get to a point where it's not where they're actually learning something about what they're going to be, right? Because last year, that really, since again, we won't even say his name, while he was there, they were not running an offense that Stefanski wants to run. They were running a ton of shotgun, a ton of stuff out of the gun in general, run game and passing game, and it's just not really what Stefanski comes from. He's definitely more of that under center, hard play action, Shanahan style scheme.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to go back to that with who they have here now. So generally speaking, I'm expecting it to be better, just by virtue of what they're trying to do and not so much the talent there. But it is going to be an uphill battle for this team to be anything more than just okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think moving forward on defense, like we were talking about, they don't have a ton of guys to replace that I think were huge assets for them last year. And because of that, they kind of can reset the defense a little bit and hope that, all right, some of the young guys that we brought in, some of the young guys that are coming back, are they going to be enough to really change the dynamic of the defense that was one of the best we've seen in a while back in 2023? A lot of those names are still there. Not all of them, but a lot of them are still there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
As far as losses, there's really not a lot to talk about here. Maurice Hurst was a good pickup for them for the past couple of years. He played well. I like Khaleke Hudson as a linebacker a little bit, but he doesn't even have a team right now, as far as I know, unless he got picked up and I didn't see it. I always thought that he had some juice to him for sure as a linebacker and coverage in particular, but I guess that the NFL does not feel the same way. As far as retentions, they did bring back Devin Bush, speaking of the Steelers, or speaking of this division, another Steelers player that has been okay, I guess, for them, but you really want him being a starting linebacker. And then they give Myles Garrett a mega deal when I just simply disagreed with it. If any major edge rusher this year got traded for 2 first-round picks, it should have been Myles Garrett, not Micah Parsons. Let's be honest about that. The fact that we're talking about Myles Garrett getting paid $40 million on a team that is years away from probably being relevant again just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And money talks, right? I understand if his biggest thing was he wanted to be paid better if he's going to be on this team, then he got what he wanted, right? But if I'm the Browns, this is different than the Parsons thing. Garrett is going to be 30. He's been about as good as you could possibly ask someone to be for you, and it hasn't mattered at all. At some point, when you are coming off of several years of not having first-round picks because of the decision you made at quarterback, maybe it's better to just reload with that than it is to pay Myles Garrett $40 million a year. And that is not anything to do with Garrett. I think he's going to play very well on this deal. I'm sure it's going to be fine from a value perspective, especially with the deals that are getting signed the next couple of years, I'm sure. It's just, again, like, is this the right team to make that contract, right? Like, it's an interesting conversation to have, but he is back here. So, it is what it is. Another loss here, Dalvin Tomlinson. Not the same player he was when he first came to Cleveland, but still a very good interior player that they had to replace. And to be fair, they did do that. We'll talk about that in a second. But additions on defense as well. Not a ton of guys to really name here. Julian Okwara has been an edge that's bounced around. Piotr Shoyinka was a bust first-round pick for the Bucs, so we'll see what they get out of him. Jerome Baker, Rayshon Jenkins, Monte KZ. Like, no notable, like, huge upgrades, let me put it that way, in free agency, right? And that makes sense for a team that doesn't need to be doing that. You don't need to be spending money in free agency in that way. However, they did make a huge swing, really. You could technically call it a swing. It's really more of a decision to not take Travis Hunter because partially I think they knew they weren't really a Travis Hunter away and wanted the extra picks. They trade down to 5 in the 2025 draft to pick up Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Now, before I even talk about Carson Schwarzenegger, who they took in the second round as well, the first pick of the second round, who I did like, I do think Mason Graham is a good player. I do wonder if he's going to be more than like a good number 2 interior player in the NFL. I think he has some particular skills, especially as a run defender, despite not being the biggest player in the world. I do just worry that the pass rushing will not translate super well to the NFL. I with shorter arms, with he just doesn't play with a ton of power as a pass rusher, which is strange because he is a good power player against the run. Yeah. He just had a weird profile that I'm not saying won't work at all, but I do wonder if 5th overall pick is several spots higher than you should have taken a guy like this.
Yeah. I honestly thought he was going to fall to about 15 or so.
That's closer to when I would have been drafting him personally. So
I thought the Niners might have tried to take a flyer on him, see if they could have picked him up.
Yeah, honestly, that would have been a good fit because they have this past draft they had nobody in the interior spot. So,
but yeah, and with the Myles Garrett sign, like you said, it just by the end of his that deal, if he even plays it all the way out, I forget how much of an extension it was.
4 years, 160.
4 years. Even if he makes it in Cleveland, all 4 years, will Cleveland be to the point, like you said, will they even be ready at that point for it?
It's just really hard to say. It could turn around as quickly as a year or two if they get the right quarterback in here.
But is this quarterback room going to be Arch, Gabriel, Sanders, and Flacco next year? Is that what this?
I don't think it's definitely don't think it's going to be Arch. Unfortunately for him, he's got some work to do. It appears. However, I think that's the biggest question with this team, and it's been the biggest question pretty much every year they've been back in existence. Is the quarterback right?
Yeah.
Right. And the closest they've gotten was Baker Mayfield, who after a rough year, they obviously jettisoned from this team and go out and get, as I like to call him, Mr. Touchy-Feely. And that was obviously a huge mistake for a billion different reasons, but it is what it is. It was the same thing it always is with the Browns. If they find a quarterback that is worth his weight, this team could be a good football team. They have a coach that I believe in. They have a defense that has the players in place. Now, I don't know if Jim Schwartz is going to continue to be the right guy to coach this defense because he tends to run his be run out of town eventually because eventually teams figure his defense out. And it seems that's maybe happened a little bit. But I think they have the personnel in place where they're a quarterback and some ancillary players away from at least being a playoff caliber team. I don't know about anything crazy. But again, is that going to happen? Their history suggests no, right? And that's getting into expectations for this team. I expect them to play as many young players as they can get on the field. I expect the offense to look more professional, with Stefanski calling it again.
Yeah.
And their expectations should be that they hope they are just good enough to not lose all their jobs going into 2026. That's really what the expectation should be is we want to show enough promise with the guys we brought in. We want to win a few more games than we did last year if we can manage it. And we want to prove that we should still be the people in charge here. Because Andrew Berry, if he's not on the hot seat, damn, he should be. This has been a disaster. Like, I don't know what to do with the Watson thing. I don't even know if that was the owner primarily pushing that. I know they said it's not, but why would I believe that? You know? But if it was full on from the coaching staff and the GM, like, they should already be fired, in my opinion. But I'm giving them a little bit of a pass for that, with the assumption that Haslam definitely was willing to kind of take that jump there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel the same way. You have to weed out guys that you can build a future with and guys that you just have to cut. Like, you can't like beat around the bush these next couple years, or you're just going to keep getting the same results. The Browns seem to be in this hellhole for like this cycle for the past 20, 25 years. I mean, they've made the playoffs once or twice, and I mean, it's like you need to figure I don't know, something you need to have one of those professional years, like you said with Stefanski. Like, your offense might not look fun, but you're also hopefully not seeing a guy out there running around with his head like a chicken with his head cut off. And like you might see some times where it might be fun to go for it on fourth down, but he's like, no, let's punt it. Let's get out of this situation. Try to live to play another down. So you have to find out who you can move on with this team. The Browns and their quarterbacks, I don't know if there's ever hope for that. I don't know if there's enough time to heal that. I know they said time heals all, but I don't think you can heal that quarterback situation.
I simply just don't know.
Baker was the most successful thing they've had at quarterback in I don't even know how long.
So it's tough. Win total range for this team, I'm just going to throw it out there pretty simply. I think they could lose as many as 14 games again. Like, I think this could be a 3 to 4 win team again. With Flacco quarterback, with the issues on offense and the offensive line, with a defense that already showed a lot of cracks last year, and their biggest addition is a rookie that may or may not work out anyway. With any rookie, you never know, but like especially with what type of player I think he is, the floor is as low as ever. I think the ceiling is like 8 wins if Flacco is the 2023 Flacco and Stefanski coaches his ass off and Schwartz figures it out on defense a little bit. I don't think this is nearly as good of a team as it was whenever Flacco was starting here in 2023. So I don't think they can make a playoff run, but I think they could play respectable football if everything turns their way.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I had 3 or 4 wins for this team. I honestly, the script I see for them is winning 3 games in the first 6 weeks, just because everyone's trying to figure out what they're doing this year, and they might squeak out a few wins, and then they might not see another win till week 13 or 14 when they get like a crappy weather game in Cleveland and catch a team off guard. Like,
I know that well. That'll definitely be the Steelers or something.
Yeah, so like that's exactly. It's going to be an AFC North opponent. It's going to be a crappy weather game in Cleveland, and they're going to get their 4th win, and that's what I see this year.
Yeah, same here. Let's talk about the Bengals next, because oh boy, the Bengals. So notable change. Biggest one is the defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, no longer here. Now a Colts defensive coordinator. Bring in Al Golden, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator from this past season. In case you know him well, you guys took him to the woodshed a little bit in that national title game to some degree. So you know him a little bit. I think it's fine. I think the change was probably necessary just with how bad the defense was. Problem is, I don't think it's any better, and I have no real way of knowing that Al Golden is a better coordinator than Lou Anarumo. So that's kind of my take on that. I don't really know if there's any point in really talking about it beyond that, right? Like, it's kind of a wait and see thing with this team. As far as
they don't even have, I don't even think they have the player personnel to. I don't care who you brought in a defense coordinator for that team. Honestly,
that's kind of the problem. Yeah. So the bottom line, like for this team, some of the offensive moves. First of all, they extend Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Now, here's the thing. In general, I don't think that that's a problem. Like keeping both of those guys when you've done what you've done on offense. My issue is if this team had defensive players that were young and ascending, and they could afford to spend all that money on the receivers and not have to worry about making sure the defense was playable, it would make sense, especially over a couple-year period like it is with Higgins especially. But that's not the position this team is in. I understand how good the offense is when both of them are on the field. It doesn't matter because they haven't been able to overcome the defense. And I don't know if it's going to be any better this year. And the offense can't really be better than it was last year. Like, it can, of course, in some ways, but when those two were all three of them, I should say, were on the field last year, there wasn't really a better offense down and down than that. There just wasn't. But it didn't matter, right? It just, at the end of the day, like, they went on a run at the end of the season, but they were so bad for most of the year on defense that it completely crushed any chance they had. So having them both back is really fun. I don't know if it makes them better than they would be if they tried to do something else defensively with that money a little bit. Yeah. Specifically for Higgins, whether you get a pick for him in a trade or whatever you do, like, that feels like that build might have more staying power in terms of being able to win games.
Yeah, and just knowing how the Bengals operate, this is definitely a let's sell jerseys move, in my opinion.
It's like it in a lot of ways.
You can't walk
also out. Making Burrow happy. He wanted them.
Yes.
I get that.
Yeah, and, like, you can't walk around out here without seeing someone in a Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, or T. Higgins jersey. It don't matter if it's July or December. So, like, I understand why you sign those guys, but, like, at what cost?
It just puts so much pressure on an offense that already has been under so much.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it comes down to. As far as losses, Alex Kappa was horrendous last year, but he was a starter for this team, so he's gone. Trev Brown, backup tackle, didn't really play a whole lot, didn't have to, so he's with the Texans now. Bunch of backup running backs: Khalil Herbert, Travion Williams, Chris Evans, all guys like that. As far as guys they retain here, we talked about those guys. Mike Gesicki's back on a contract. Tanner Hudson, second tight end for them for the most part. Cody Ford is back as a backup guard. I don't know about that. In the draft, Dylan Fairchild, who looks to be this team's starting left guard this year, which good for them because they needed somebody there that wasn't either Cody Ford or whoever it would be there. So I get that. I mean, Jalen Rivers is an interesting tackle pick. Taj Brooks should be a good backup running back. Like, that's all fine and good. We know the offense, though. We know the offense is great.
They did pick up that Risner guy, too, the guard on free agency out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think that was a great pickup for him. That was uncharacteristic of the Bengals, in my opinion. And it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, like, we know how good the offense is. Is even worth, I don't even know if it's worth talking about with this team. Like, the offense moves, they matter to some degree. Like, I'm glad they upgraded the offensive line a little bit potentially. It's potentially, right? You're asking a lot from some of these guys. But realistically, I just don't know. Like, also a couple chats here from Derpy Entertainment. Nice name. Tell me, how does Yinzer prevent for an edge? So that it's a whole thing, not worth going into, but I am Steelers fan. I don't know if I consider myself a Yinzer, by the way. I think I'm just short of that, but I get it.
Long story short, met through Twitter.
Basically.
And started a betting show, and now we're doing this.
Bungles will always be the Bungles. In some ways, it feels like it, unfortunately, and it's really – I honestly, at this point – for a different reason than I feel bad for Browns fans, I feel a little bit bad for Bengals fans because the Bengals are at least good sometimes, but then when they are, they're like, but we're not going to do all the stuff required to be good. We're just going to do some of it. It's like, man, like, okay, whatever. They're not even from Ohio, they're in Kentucky, LOL.
True.
Whatever, again.
Shout out Northern Kentucky.
Yep. No, it's just, defensively, this is where – if you were a Bengals fan, you wanted to know what was this team going to do to try to rectify some of what they just could not do last year, right? They lose Sam Hubbard to retirement when he was barely an edge 4 level player anymore, so I don't really even know if that matters that much. Sheldon Rankins and Jay Tufele are both gone from the interior group. Not that they did anything. Rankins missed most of the year. Jermaine Pratt has regressed and is now a Raider, so congrats, Dalton and Jake, for resident
Yeah.
Raiders fans. Akeem Davis-Gaither is actually a guy that I thought might be brought back to replace Pratt if he was cut, and he's actually now a Cardinal. Mike Hilton remains free agent after latching on with the Dolphins after he was not signed for back with the Bengals. Von Bell's gone, didn't do much either, to be fair. So not a ton of losses that I think are huge from last year. But in terms of guys they brought back, B.J. Hill, Joseph Asai, like all these guys, Cam Sample, Geno Stone, all guys who were already on this team last year and didn't help them be good, clearly, as we know. And then additions, I mean, TJ Slayton's a good one as a run defender in the middle of the defense. I do like that.
Yeah, I will say I think BJ Hill is a good bring back for them.
He is, yeah. But he was already here. Like what are you gonna get from him? You hope. Warren Burks played really well for the Eagles in the playoffs when he had to play because of the injury to Jacoby Dean. But who knows about a full-time role? And then Joe Giles-Harris, who's a backup linebacker. Like that's about it. Now defensively, that's where they spent most of their draft picks, as you imagine they would. The problem is they took Shamar Stewart with the 17th pick, which I understand from a traits and all that standpoint. I had some reservations about how much of an impact he could have early on in his career, but he was worthwhile gamble. I did like a lot of what I saw with him. The problem is not only did you take a player that was basically entirely traits-based and had a long way to go, you took him to a team that probably needs him to play right away, and then you didn't sign him to his contract for however long because of whatever the hell it ended up being the reason, a whole host of reasons why. You just showed exactly why you are where you are as an organization. Luckily for them, they did figure that out eventually. They got him to sign, but he missed a lot of time, and this is a player that needed that time, in my opinion. What are they going to get from him this year? I have no clue. Your guess is as good as mine at home. It's just a question mark. And then Demetrius Knight, second round. I liked him. Thought he was a third-round player, so I can't love it too much, but he is probably one of the few linebackers in this class I think is ready to play right away, especially against the run. So maybe he'll give them something this year. Barrett Carter, he got some good traits, but is kind of a one-trick pony in terms of just a speedy player and doesn't do a lot much else right now. I don't know if any of these three guys are going to make a significant difference in their outcome for 2025, and that's okay if they're not worried about that, but they should be, is the problem.
Yeah.
They did not make enough outside additions to justify taking three players, only one of which I think has a chance to really make a huge impact in year one. Now, obviously, Stewart is very talented. He could end up being a very valuable player even as a rookie. But we all kind of knew, even people who were very high on him, that he probably is a year or two away from being like a true impact starter if he's going to be one. They don't have time for that. Trey Hendrickson is back on this team mercifully on a one-year deal still, though, so they still have to go through this whole song and dance next year. They just paid him a decent amount this year, so he shows up. They're gonna do the same thing again, Casey. They're gonna just ask Trey Hendrickson to be the defense, hope that they don't get as injured as they were last year, and hope the secondary is actually as talented as it could be. And they're just gonna hope that all works out.
Yeah, and they're gonna hope the offense can keep on scoring 30 to 40 points a game.
Yeah, and it's just it's a hard world to live in. It just
yeah, and real quick on the Trey Hendrickson deal, I every time I think about it, I just feel like the Brown family and then Hendrickson, after they left that final meeting, both sides were like, we just screwed them over. And then at the same time, they both lost in that deal. They both won and lost. This 1 year crap is just going to cause so much more of a headache next year for either both of them or one of them.
Yeah, I simply can't do it again. If he gets tagged, I might have to just pretend he doesn't exist until he's not a Bengal. Because he could be.
That's probably what's going to happen.
And it's just dude, all right, whatever.
And the Bengals are praying that he has a bad year at this point.
That's the sad part. It probably would be better for them if he does.
Yeah.
Because then they could be like, oh, well, we can bring you back when we might be a little bit better. And,
yeah.
We're going to only give you $18 million this time. It's $2 million more than you were getting before. I can't. I can't with it. The Bengals, my expectation for them is that they do the exact same thing they did last year, except maybe win one of their first 3 games for the first time and it feels like forever. Like, if you're going to do this, you cannot start the season like 1-2 and 0-3 like you do every year the past 3 years. You got to figure this shit out. And granted, they tried to do that this year by switching up playing the starters in the preseason, and they almost got Joe Burrow killed in the process, which was, I'm like, of course you would mess this up still. Like, the plays that I saw him in the preseason against Washington, I think in particular, I'm like, what is going on out here? Like, what is Joe doing? Does he not know it's preseason? He's never played, it feels like, before the preseason, so maybe he doesn't know. Like,
I mean, that he's just a competitor, and then like
great.
Zach Taylor was like, and Zach Taylor's like, I'm going to keep him out there. It's like I think that's more on the coach than anything.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
And my expectations this year, for the Bengals.
No, you're good.
You got to start 3-0, in my opinion. You like
with their record, they better be too.
You have to start 3-0. I don't care who you got the first 3 weeks. I know they start off with the Browns. After that, I forget who, but
I think it's Vikings, which is a tough game potentially, but like
they should be able to win that with JJ back there.
Something else, I forget who else they play. But the point, like, that's my point. My expectation is, like, if you're going to do this build, you have to win enough games the first month of the season to be able to make a run at the end. Like,
you got to give yourself a cushion to have some bumps in the road because it's a long season. And
right.
They have not done that for themselves.
They have not. So they want to be a playoff team. They have to do that. And I think the win total range for them is interesting because I think the floor is still like 7 games at the worst. And that's if they bottom out defensively again and the offense is a tick worse. But I don't think it's going to be much worse than it was because with all the talent they have. And Chase Brown getting the go right from the get-go, like being the starting running back, will help too. But the ceiling, I don't think I could put higher than 11 because this defense is just not good enough right now on paper for me to think that they can win significantly more games than they did last year, right? Like, they could be a true playoff team with the right break on defense, but anything more than that feels like too much.
Yeah, and they won 9 games last year, and like you said, I think this defense is worse off than it was last year. So I have their floor at 8 wins. I don't know how they got to 9 last year, but I think they can get to 8 this year. I agree. I couldn't see, honestly, I see a high of 10 wins and possibly barely sneaking into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of
if they can get in, I think they can be dangerous.
Yeah, because with an offense like that, all your defense has to do is have one good game, and all of a sudden you want to play game. Like, that's definitely that's what I think they're kind of trying to do. The problem is it's just really fucking hard to do. It just is. So we'll see what they can do here. They're just a team that's really hard to pin down because until you see this defense actually play, which every bit of preseason action we've seen from guys who are going to actually be out there, they've looked just the worst. Yeah, just so bad.
All my friends I've asked how they when they've watched these games, they are afraid of what this defense is going to look like.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I really don't. Let's move on to my Pittsburgh Steelers. This doesn't have to be a very long conversation because it never really has to be with this team. Like, despite all the things they've done, no coaching staff changes, by the way, which there is not going to be usually, with this team. Despite all the moves they made this offseason, I'll just get out ahead right now and say it. I don't feel much differently about this team than I do normally. Like, and we'll go over it because, like,
I'll just say right now, sadly, I feel the same way.
Yeah, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it, you're like, man, there's so many new names here. Then you think about it, but I feel the same way about the names. Let's talk about losses on offense, just offensive moves in general, because there was plenty to talk about here. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, the primary starting quarterbacks, gone. Both to the New York area, really the New Jersey area with the Giants and Jets, respectively. So you see that. Najee Harris, the only running back I believe currently that has 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL, which is a funny stat. Like active players that have, except for Henry, I think maybe, unless he missed it barely with the Titans last. Point is, he's been very productive. Efficient, not so much. Productive, yes. So they have to replace that. George Pickens is a Cowboy, which would have been kind of cool, and now it's not because the Cowboys can't do 2 things right in a row. So whatever. Enjoy that. Van Jefferson is with the Titans and suddenly could run 65 yards again in the preseason.
I was
Good
going
for
to say
him.
yeah.
Right. Still don't know what that was about. They lose James Daniels, who was phenomenal to start last season, and then tore his Achilles, which of course he did. So he's with the Dolphins now. Hopefully he can get back healthy. Nate Herbig was a good backup for them. Dan Moore. Thank you, Dan Moore, for playing just well enough to convince the Titans to give you $80 million and a third-round comp pick to the Steelers. We love that. That's all I really have to say about Dan Moore at this point. Retentions, they just extended Jalen Warren off of his his restricted free agent tag. Ben Skoranek comes back as the blocking / special teams guy. Scotty Miller, who actually was kind of a big addition or big retention because he looked really good in the preseason, is probably going to be their fourth wide receiver, which,
Is that Scotty Miller from Tampa Bay?
Yep, that is Scotty Miller.
Dude, that's not a bad pickup from what
the problem is he didn't do nothing for us last year. So
yeah. He was there. I didn't know he was there last year.
Exactly.
Okay. That's bad. I should have just listened to what I just said.
That's kind of the point, unfortunately. As far as additions go, they made a quarterback addition that everyone's been talking about. Mason Rudolph is back with the Steelers. So that's really big. No, Aaron Rodgers is this team's quarterback, which, God damn it. I just don't know about that. We'll talk about that in a second. Kenneth Gainwell comes over from the Eagles as their third running back. Well, technically second right now. Hopefully it'll be their third running back sooner rather than later. DK Metcalf, the big addition via trade, of course. Johnny Smith brought over in a trade as well that we'll talk more about, the guy that really matters in that trade more than anything here briefly or in a moment. Robert Woods was brought in and has now been cut twice by this team, actually, funnily enough. So he's no longer a factor here. But let's talk about, before we get into the draft picks here, because I want to take a second with the big moves they made in the offseason, the Aaron Rodgers of it all and the DK Metcalf of it all. I'm simply perplexed in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The DK Metcalf thing first, right? So paying DK Metcalf $33 million a year, to me, is kind of asinine, just in general. He, to me, is like maybe one of the 32 receivers, like top receivers in the league, maybe. And I'm just saying that because I think that he probably slots in there somewhere. I just don't know where exactly. And if that's where what I think about a player, which granted, some people are much higher on him than that. So like, that's probably where this comes from. I just can't get down with paying him, like, at the time, close to the top of the market money-wise, especially for a player whose skill set probably isn't going to get better as he approaches 30. And then you trade George Pickens, who admittedly was an absolute kind of like goofball nutcase a little bit, but not in like a truly damaging way, just more of a like, what is this dude's deal kind of way. So I was kind of okay with living with that, but this team was not, so I get moving on before he has a contract year this year.
That would have been a fun wide receiver duo, though.
Oh, it would have been really.
That would have been something. A crazy duo.
I mean, Rodgers' average air yards per attempt would have been like 20 if those two were on the team.
Yeah.
Which would have been fun, I guess, but probably not super effective.
I'm just saying the vibes on that team would have been crazy with
something. Yeah,
I'm not even talking about the play. I'm just talking about the vibes on that team.
Oh, there's a whole thing of memes that came out when those two were supposed to be teammates. Trust me. It was like the over under for like bar fights in the middle of the game. Like, it's a whole thing. But no, so the DK Metcalf thing, I just don't agree with in general, like making that move and paying what you did for him. And then bringing in Aaron Rodgers, like, because they're trying to go for it still this year a little bit, which their version of go for it is like not roll over and die, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I get that he's the best player on the market you could do at quarterback, and he is better, I still think, than Russell Wilson or Justin Fields would be this year. The problem is, like, I guess this is hard to say as a fan of the team, but like, who cares? Like, does anyone who's not a fan of this team, like, does anyone think that this is going to mean something different for this team? I certainly don't. Like, it's just going to be a different flavor of the 10-7 season where they have to play the Bills or the Ravens or God forbid the Chiefs and just get absolutely shit stomped probably in the first round of the playoffs. Like, that's what this team is set up to do, in my opinion, again. And that's before we even get to the defensive moves, which were interesting. Like, I do think some of that was very interesting too. But the draft picks on offense that are notable, Caleb Johnson obviously is the big one out of Iowa, the running back. Really love his fit here. And if you saw my my title on here,
Yeah.
you know I'm a big fan of him, of course. Um, fantasy team name this year. They bring in Will Howard. Hey,
Yeah.
national champion. Going to start the season on IR. Didn't get to see him in the preseason, which infuriated me, by the way,
Yeah.
because I wanted something interesting to watch in the preseason, and I had instead watched Skylar Thompson be actually pretty good. So I guess there's that. I don't know. He'll be the third quarterback for this team for now. Again, like offensively, will they probably be better down to down than they were last year? Yeah, I think so. But I think the ultimate, like, what does it mean for this team? Is it just maybe gives them a better chance in a playoff game, especially if it's one that isn't against the big three, right? Like if you manage to get a playoff game that isn't against the Bills, Chiefs, or Ravens, you probably can win that game. I think you're good enough to compete in those games.
Yeah.
But the odds of them getting a matchup against not one of those teams doesn't feel super high.
Yeah, because you have to be at the top to kind of get yourself out of playing.
Like you have
guys.
to be like your best chance is to be the fifth seed, which is tough. When the AFC West might be all of the seeds except for the other division winners.
Yeah.
Like potentially, it's tough, right? Like because they're probably going to be like the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs are probably going to be somewhere 1, 2, and 3, most likely, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the Chiefs end up not doing it. Maybe the whatever. They're probably going to be 1, 2, and 3. And then it's like you hope the Texans are the fourth seed again, and like that team could still be fiery though, like with that defense and the quarterback. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the defense here because they did make some interesting moves here as well. As far as losses go, I don't even want to call Larry Ogunjobi a loss, but I guess it's kind of a loss. Melinda Roberts might be the best player this team lost in true free agency because they did also make a trade that we'll talk about. He's now the Raiders' run-stuffing linebacker, and they've moved on to probably playing Peyton Wilson most of the time, which I do agree with. So there's that. Yeah. They lose Mika Fitzpatrick, but they gain in response Jalen Ramsey, who is a better player at this point, I think, but also just as old.
Yeah.
And probably still going to not factor in as much as you would hope he will.
Yeah, I like the Jalen Ramsey pickup though.
I do too.
He feels like a Steeler with his.
Oh, he's definitely a Steeler.
Yeah, like I love that pickup. I mean, another guy, Darius Slay.
Yep, Darius Slay is also here. Malik Harrison.
Two dudes like I still think you can get some good play out of them, especially Ramsey. But like 5 years ago, this would have been two dope dudes to have.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's the problem is if you look at this roster, if it was 2019,
yeah,
like
I didn't even realize that. Yeah,
like goddamn. The problem
they
is
won the Super Bowl, right? Yeah,
that's the problem, folks.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Darius Slay, who, I mean, if he could play good again at 34, good for him.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to feel about that still. Brandon Echols comes over from the Jets. He's going to be one of their backup corners. Juan Thornhill is going to be the starter at safety, which and then draft Derek Harmon, one of my favorite players in the draft, will be starting the season banged up, but should be back here shortly, is their first round pick. Jack Sawyer, who I thought was maybe draftable. Personally,
it made sense. I knew he was either going to Pittsburgh or Cleveland. It
makes sense. Makes sense. But I think a much better player turns out Wyatt Black taken the next round. Iowa has been phenomenal in the preseason. I think he'll have a role. And Carson Brunner and Dante Kent in the 7th round, linebacker out of Washington, corner out of Central Michigan, both currently on the roster. Now Kent is on IR right now, but I don't know if he'll make it back to the 453 man when he gets back. But all the draft picks on defense do make the roster initially. So, again, like this defense is going to be really good as it always is. I just don't know if it's going to be top 5, top 3, which is what they would need to meaningfully get better than I think the version they've been in the past few years.
Yeah. I think I don't want to like talk too much about my expectations because it's all I'm going to bring up when I talk about this defense. But this feels like it's going to be another good Steelers defense all around, in my opinion. A lot older than it has been. But I still think this defense is going to be the strong point of this team, in my opinion. Like if you're going to have any success, it has to come out of this defense because there's too many question marks on the offense. In my opinion, on what to expect.
That's just it. Expectations for 2025. Win a playoff game.
Yeah.
You did all this shit. You were in the headlines all off season for all the stuff you did, and it's got to mean something. It cannot be 10-7, get your ass beat, go home. It can't be that again.
Yeah.
I'm talking obviously from a fan's perspective, but I'm also talking about from an NFL perspective, a fan of the sport. I'm just tired of having to watch the same version of this team, but just different flavors of it.
Yeah.
Do the same thing year in and year out. Like, I just want it to be different. And that's really the only expectation I can have.
Yeah, that's my expectation as well. Win a playoff game. We know they're going to get there somehow, some way. They get there. They always do. But you have to do something this time. You can't just roll over at the end of the first quarter, and we all know that whoever they're playing is moving on. They have to keep this competitive, and they have to win one this year.
Yeah, that's my expectation. Win total range. I love this one. Casey, I want you to go first because I know what mine is, but I'm curious.
Well, by default, it has to be above. It has to be at least 9 wins.
Yep,
by default.
Exactly.
So default, I would say a floor of 9 wins, a ceiling 10 wins, could be 11. Could be 11 if there's some magical aura around this team somehow where Aaron Rodgers figured it out for one last ride and DK's got 1,200 yards. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. My floor is 9, of course. If you don't know this, the Steelers have not had a losing record since 2003.
And that is insane.
It was really fun 10 years ago whenever they weren't on a 9 season playoff losing streak.
Yeah.
So that's not as fun anymore. I don't really care about it at this point. But I'll say 11 as well. I think that's the absolute best you could get out of this team because that's kind of what they're designed to do. They're not really supposed to be like this. Oh man, we could go 13-4 and be the 2 seed. It's no, probably not. You're just going to be maybe the 5 seed. It's kind of what you're hoping for.
You almost want a 3-win season in there just to feel something.
Dude.
Just honestly, to feel something different.
That's where I'm at, where I'm I don't want this team to be terrible, obviously, but at some point I'm man, am I ever even going to find out what it's like to watch a team that's hopeless?
Yeah.
It sounds stupid to say that, you don't want that, but you kind of do.
Yeah.
It's a little cathartic to just watch a team that's never bad to be really bad for a year and be man, so that's what that's like. And
when's the last time you guys picked in the top 5?
God. I'm not joking. There's a chance it was Terry Bradshaw in 1970.
Jeez.
It's possible. I don't know that off the top of my head for sure. I'll have to get back to you on that one, but I'm pretty sure that it's definitely the last time we picked number 1 was Bradshaw. I don't know about the top 5, but I can't think of a time that they picked top 5.
That's what I'm saying. I can't think of I'm trying to think if there was any trade year. I can't think of anything.
No. Yeah, especially naturally picking that high. I don't know. But I'd have to get back to you on that one. Let's talk about the Ravens briefly here. We don't have a ton of time before we have to get ready for our betting show, which definitely can join us right after this show, which is fitting because there's not much to talk about this Ravens team that we don't know. Nothing with the coaching staff. Harbaugh's still here. Monken's still here. Can't even remember their defense coordinator's name right now, but he took over last year. Now I need to look it up because I don't want to be an asshole about it. I know it's a former player. I'm pretty sure. Here, Zach Orr, former linebacker in the NFL for a long time. They did a really good job last year. They figured the defense out middle of last season. Basically, it was just let's just put Kyle Hamilton at actual safety because we don't have a safety. It's okay, there you go, boom. Not a lot to talk about here. Ravens, there's a reason why the Ravens are kind of the unquestioned leader of this division currently. A lot of it is to do with, the guy they have a quarterback. No matter what people say about him in the postseason, he is kind of unmatched in the regular season. Might be one of the best quarterbacks in the regular season of all time already, just from blades at least.
I agree about Cooper Rush.
Of course.
I'm just gonna.
Cooper Rush. By the way, funniest backup for the Ravens.
I know.
When I saw they signed him, I'm like, wait a minute. Where's the undrafted free agent with
I was about to say,
speed?
where's the Lamar Jackson stunt double?
Yeah, where's
basically?
Yeah, but no notable losses on offense, to be honest with you. Nelson Aguilar, you could argue, because he did play for this team last couple of years. Betsy Macari too, but like I shouldn't say he's not a notable loss. He is a really good backup and like spot starter for them, but didn't have to do much the past couple of years. So he goes to the Jaguars and will be a starter for them. They bring Derrick Henry back on an extension, keep him around longer because he doesn't seem to be going anywhere at this point. Patrick Ricard's brought back. Bateman has a new deal. Ben Cleveland, Ronnie Stanley was retained. That was a huge one. That was definitely big for that offense to keep him around now that he's healthy again. Cooper Rush, you talked about, backup quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins maybe has something left here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
hard to say. Joseph Noteboom is backup tackle. They brought over from the Rams. Draft picks. Tackle Emory Jones on IR, I believe, right now, so he won't probably see him. We'll count Tyler Loop on offense as the kicker because he's notable because Mr. Touchy-Feely Part 2 is no longer with the Ravens, which why has it got to be the AFC North? Is also not trying to make Steelers fans mad.
One into the North.
Yeah, well, also like not trying to make any Steelers fans mad, but like Big Ben, we know his stuff. Like, I don't know about anybody on the Bengals, but I'm sure there's somebody. I don't know.
I mean, they drafted a guy that punched a woman.
Right, but that's still really bad, obviously.
They had Pac-Man Jones, and that dude's done enough to like.
True. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. LeJohntay Webster is a fun receiver out of Colorado. But again, like most of this stuff, though, doesn't matter a lot. They've got, in my opinion, who could have still been the MVP last year. Lamar Jackson, to me, maybe the most transformational quarterback we've seen in a very long time in terms of what he's done for his team and for what he's done for the league, honestly, in a lot of ways, and why some of these guys that have come in since after him have been able to play the way that they play is because of the type of stuff that he does. And he's become a true, like, difference maker upstairs, too. Like, with what he's able to do with his pocket presence in particular, it's just fun as hell to watch that dude. Like, they will go as far as he takes them, and this offensive line and these running backs and stuff. So very curious how that's going to turn out. Defensively, moves-wise, definitely some more additions here that are, I think, notable. As far as losses go, they do lose Malik Harrison, who's now in the Steelers, is one of their backup linebackers. Brandon Stevens, who, man, mercifully is gone here because he was just – I don't know what the Jets are doing with that, but he seems to be a starter for them. I would have not done that and definitely not paid him $12 million a year. He's a classic example of what happens whenever you don't know how to turn your head as a corner, where he could be in good coverage and it never matters because he never sees the football ever.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what that's about, so you don't worry about him too much. And then on defense, Jair Alexander and Chidobe Awuzie, two aging corners who have had injury issues. As long as one of them is healthy, they'll probably be fine in the corner room. So those are notable additions there. And then in the draft, Malachi Starks, really good safety, really fun player out of Georgia. But Mike Green, great player, another case of maybe touchy-feely stuff.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. Reason he fell is not because of his talent. It's because of that type of stuff.
Off the field, yeah.
Yes. And then I also want to shout out Aeneas Peebles, fun defensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. Very undersized guy, though. Again, like the defense was phenomenal back end of last year once they figured things out. I don't expect that to be any different this year with the additions they made in the secondary, especially. I think it should hold up better. They're more insulated for injury. I think a very good offseason for them in that way as well.
Yeah, I think Jair Alexander is one of the bigger signings I saw here, and I think he is going to benefit a lot from playing in this defense and with this team. I know that, like his previous employers, he was in some pretty good positions as well. But I think once you get on this Ravens team, it's kind of like all your senses just get raised and you play above your normal. And I think he's going to have a better year this year. I could see him being – I know the Pro Bowl doesn't really mean too much now in the NFL, but I think he could be a Pro Bowl guy this year with the Ravens. But that's my reach for this one. I did like the pickup.
All right, just so we can get over to our betting show in just a few minutes
Yeah.
here, let's finish up expectations and win total range. I think it's very simple for this one. Win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You have to win the Super Bowl. You cannot continue to be the team you are in the regular season, have the quarterback that you do, have the roster you do, and the coach you do without winning a Super Bowl. That is the only thing that will make this team truly be viewed as a success at this point, is getting it done in the playoffs, specifically all the way to the Super Bowl. That's pretty much it, I think, Casey.
Yeah, I agree. Super Bowl, if you don't make it or if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, I don't want this to happen, but there should have been some craziness with the roster that impacted it, in my opinion. There's no more excuses at this point.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a Lions level disaster injury or something.
I don't want that to happen, obviously, but
yeah. And then our win total range here, I think a floor of 10 if Lamar's healthy is as low as I'll go for this team. And they could win 14 games and be the 1 seed. Like that's I think the range here.
Yeah, same 10. I know I say this all the time. It's hard to get past 13 win. I honestly think this team can get 15.
It's possible.
Yeah, this is the one team I think that if they are going to hit that 14-15 mark, this is the team, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So that'll do it for our AFC North preview and our previews for the AFC and NFC in total coming into the season. We have football coming tomorrow, guys, and we're going to take a quick break, but then you should see us go live on our betting show here shortly. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys.